Part four. All right, let's get right into it. We got this list happening. Big change we made last video was we created a provider to kind of manage the state of our list. That way we can subscribe to it, and whether changes happen on this screen or other screens, everything will stay in sync. So what I want to do now, I think, is a couple things. First off, there's this weird little bug here where the spinner is just terrible. And I'm not sure why. I've done this before because we basically we're putting a size box around the circular progress indicator, and it's still not liking it. So this is when we go to Google. Circular progress indicator in app bar. Let's see what these people do. So instead of a size box, they're putting in a container. We could try that. Still not working. They made this whole widget to kind of do this. Like alternatively, we could just put the progress thing over this whole, this whole screen. I kind of like it in the save button though, and I don't know. Like I know this is a slightly updated version of Flutter than I've used before. Maybe some weird thing changed. Progress indicator is stretched. I'm just doing some more Googling like this. How to set the size. They're doing a size box. They're doing some scale. The only difference here is that they're putting in a center tag. We could try that, and we can just do Control-Shift-R and place in a center tag. Yeah, still no. I mean, it looks better. Let's make it smaller and just see what happens. Maybe the whole reason for this, I just made it too big. That could actually be what's happening. No. Actions, size box. Size box. Then they have padding around it. Let's try that. Wrap with padding. So weird. It's like the height is not. Let's just make the height small. Yeah, I don't know what is happening here. So we are just going to get rid of this, and we're going to grab this guy. And on our onPressed, we are just going to go, if it's processing, we're going to say don't do anything, this empty function. And in fact, I think we can just do null, so that becomes disabled. Let's just see if that even, yeah. So that's fine. And then let's just, when it is processing, so we're going to take our whole body. Let's do it from, I think, the column. So I want to wrap this in a stack. And a trick I do, because it's not one of the presets here, actually just wrap in column and change that column to stack, because it still has the same sort of like convention for children. So we'll have this stack, and then within this stack, we're going to go if, and paste that, if it's processing. Let's have a center object with the child of circular progress indicator. And let's just see if that works for us. Then we get it there. So that's fine. We're just going to do that. Beautiful. Easy. Okay, let's refresh because we have a lot of dummy data. Luckily, we don't have an API right now. Otherwise, I'd be going to my database and deleting all those guys. Yeah, no, that's all good. Okay, I think let's deal with something a little fun. Let us allow the ability, maybe you typed one by accident and you want to delete it. So we're going to go to our grocery list screen. This is the list screen, and then we're going to go inside the grocery list itself, and then we're going to go to the grocery item card. Now, what I want to do is actually wrap this with what's called a dismissible. So we're just going to wrap with widget, and we're going to say dismissible, dismissible. I swear that's what it is. Dismissible Flutter. Maybe I spelled it wrong. Yeah, okay, so it's just giving me error because a key is required. And let's just look up how we do dismissible. It has a key, so we'll just make the key equal to, I think we just wrap key with this dot grocery item dot ID maybe. Can't, oh, and then dot to string, so we got to make it a string. And then you can kind of see now, like, these things are going away, which is kind of cool. Now that didn't actually do anything, you'll see they're obviously still there. And if we were to, refresh, it would, oh, I don't think we've hooked up that refresh action. We'll get to that in a bit, but we got that. Now what I want to do is give the dismissible a background. And I think it's just a container, and we give it some decoration, box decoration, color, background, or just color. And let's do colors.red, so that behind it you kind of get this nice red thing. Then inside this container, we're going to make it, I'll just start simple. We're going to put an icon dot delete, I think is, yep, delete. And we want to make sure the color of this icon is colors.white. So we do that, and you should see now behind it, there is this delete. Now that's not really in the best place because you won't really see it until you pretty much already deleted it. So we could use a row, but I believe we can also just wrap this in what's called alignment. Or sorry, align is the name of the widget, but it has a property called alignment. Alignment dot, we'll use center right. So now you kind of get it there, and we definitely want some padding around it. So we'll just wrap with that default padding. You kind of get it. Now, we could, for this, really just do, all we really care about is the right padding. So let's do that. And I'm going to make it twice as much as it was before, 16. And in fact, we could probably play with this number and make it kind of line up with that checkbox. It's pretty close. I think it's pretty close to it. Oh yeah, I think that's fine. So that's enough to kind of be like, oh, cool. It's there. It's being deleted. All right. And what we can also do is in the, we have a background, we can also add a, I think it's direction, I think it's direction, yeah. And then it's just a dismiss direction dot, we want end to start, I believe, because we want, if I go this way, which is hard to tell, nothing happens, but we only want it to be this way. In theory, we could add another type of, maybe we wanted to, I don't know, maybe there's another action like a duplication or something we want to do left to right. But this way will allow people to completely remove these things from the list. Okay, so we have a dismissible, but it doesn't do anything. So now what we need is on dismissed and void function. There's a value that gets passed. I think the value is the direction. So let's just see what that actually is. Dismissal direction end to start. So we'll call this direction, then we know it's a direction, and we can say if direction, just to kind of future-proof this for later, is dismissible direction dot end to start. Let's look up an example. So on dismissed direction, so they're not even making use of it. Okay, well, let's not worry about making use of it because right now we only have, one direction anyways. in the future, if we wanted to do two things, we'd have to check where that direction is and do something differently. But here, what we are now going to do is we're going to get an instance of our what's it called, provider, our grocery list provider. So we can do get it. That's not the right. We don't want to import get it. We want to import the one from our main. So let's just do import package listy main.dart, and then we should have get it. Why is this? Okay, we'll just type it out. This will be a grocery list provider. Oh, I know why this wasn't going. We need to write something here. Provider equals get it, grocery list provider. Or we could just decide, in this case, I'm going to do it, not actually cast it to a variable and go, we're going to have something called delete item. Sweet. So we haven't made that yet, so let's make it. Grocery list form provider, not the form provider, the grocery list provider. We need a new thing, void. Let's actually just call it remove item. And we'll be passing in let's just pass in the grocery item itself. And then we need to make this function. So we'll put it down here at override void remove item. And here we want to remove that item. So what we really need to do is, all we know it's this item. So we essentially have to loop through our items and find the one. So what I'm going to do is just make a variable called final index, and it's going to be equal to items.index where element equals item dot items index where, this is an array, right? Element. So we can go element.id is equal to item.id. Now there's a small issue here because we're kind of just we're just making the ID. I think we're setting it to 99. This will create a problem when we have two with the same ID, but let's just see first of all what happens here. Refresh. Remove item. This has to become remove item. And we want to obviously pass in this dot grocery item. And let's refresh. And let's just see when we do this, we get, okay, index 0, index 1. Now that is actually correct because they were never actually removed. They were still in memory at 0 and 1, but this might be a little bit different when we remove them. So then what we want to do is go items.remove at index. And we want to remember to notify our listeners so that everyone listening can pay attention. So let's just see if how that works. So let's just try removing this one. Oh, we got rid of our print. How about at the end of this, let's just print items just to kind of see what's in memory at this point. Boom. So after we got an array with one grocery item, and when we do this, we should just have an empty array, and then it goes back to there. So that's working, other than the fact that obviously we need to call our, when we do have an API, we need to call it to be like, delete this from the database or however we want to manage that. But essentially that is all good. Okay, so we have removing. In fact, now that so the next thing I want to do is an edit. Maybe you made a typo. You don't want to delete it and have to make it from scratch. How can we do that? So we could add a little pencil icon, or we could maybe just have a, a swipe right or something like that. My thought is, like, this is pretty intuitive because a lot of apps have this. I feel like if we are like, oh, to edit, you have to swipe left, that might be confusing. I think we kind of need like an icon. So let's go to our grocery item card, which we already have open, and remember how this is built. So this is obviously with the dismissible. When we get into the card, we have padding, then we have a row, and within the row is this column here, which has those sort of things, and then it just has a grocery item checkbox. So we could put the icon I feel like if the icon's there though, like you might mistap it a lot. So I think we kind of actually want the icon right at the start. So let's just first of all start with an icon button, and we won't make it do anything yet. Icon, icons dot edit. And let's just see what that kind of looks like. So now we kind of get this, oh, they're all, spread weirdly. That's weird. So I think if we wrap this column in expanded, it will take up all the room it can. So it's basically taking up, this much space because those things are there, and this will be good. Now I think our edit button can kind of be a bit smaller too. Size, I think like 20 is the default. So we can do something like that. And that looks all right to me. We can always, edit this card at some point if we don't like these. So here we got this here, we got that there. Yay. In fact, now that I think about it, we could probably just allow the whole area to be clickable to edit it, but let's put a pencil icon there, and we're good. Add a comma. Okay, so when we push that, we essentially want to, it's going to be very similar to what, when we do this, except we need to load something into memory. So let's remember, let's find our function for adding, which is in the grocery list screen. Grocery, I'll just find it over here. Oh, it's just called list screen. Yeah. So we have this handle add item function. So I'm just going to, this will be a little bit different, so I'm not going to try and like reuse this function and pass it through. We are just going to put it right here and make sure we import it. And then you'll see if you click these, you'll get to the screen. Now that's not, exactly what we want, because we want to put that stuff in. So when you do push named, you can also pass some arguments. And we're going to pass an argument of, we're just going to call it, grocery item, and pass in grocery item. Oh, maybe I did this wrong. I think you'd actually write, arguments, sorry. You do arguments, and then you actually pass it in. And we will just do some commas there. Maybe we don't need that comma. Oh yeah, we do. It looks cleaner like that. Actually, maybe we don't need this comma. Yeah, I think that's the cleanest way to do it. Okay, next on the docket. We need to find this screen. So the add grocery screen. And what we're going to do is on an init state, we are going to see if there is an argument. So arguments equal, and I have to remember how to do this for a moment. Okay, I actually thought of sort of a different way I want to do this, since we already have this form provider. So rather than passing it to the screen, something we can actually do is load it into that form provider before we actually go to that screen. So I'm going to get rid of the arguments here. Let's go back here, and we're going to go get it. Form provider. It's called grocery list form, grocery item form provider dot, and we're going to do something. We're going to say set item, and it's going to be equal to this dot grocery item. Now set item doesn't exist yet, so we'll need to do that. Let us go to our form provider. We're going to, this can go into the operations, void set item, grocery item. Oops, spelled that wrong. And of course, we need to then, I'll do it kind of around the loading. And all we need to do here is go this dot grocery item equals item, and we can go this dot this dot notify listeners. Oh, and in this one, we're actually using this handle update. So let's stick with that. This dot handle update, which right now just calls notify listeners, but we might have some other stuff in there at some point. So basically, we're setting it here, and then we're showing the screen. That might not quite do it, but let's find out. So if I click bread, yeah, we get that empty. Oh, right, yes, and I know exactly why. So in our actual form itself, which is part of add grocery item screen, you'll see we have this, and we don't actually set an initial value here. So we can set initial value to form provider dot grocery item dot name, for instance. And before we test our new functionality, let's just see, this might break something here. Oh, it didn't, because our initial grocery item that's in memory, I suppose, right here, what do we actually do? We clear it. Yeah, we just create an empty grocery item, and an empty grocery item already has a name of blank. So that's perfect. Now, in theory, if we then edit this one, yeah, we see bread is in there. If we edit this one, we see milk is in there. That is awesome. Now, the category is not changing. Just they say miscellaneous, but that's as easy as a fix of what we just did, I think. So we were putting initial value as miscellaneous. Similarly, we can do form provider dot grocery item dot we would do dot category, but this is not really correct because this is the enum that's referring to, not the actual string. So we need to wrap that in this lovely guy here, grocery item category from string. Actually, the reverse of that, grocery item dot string from category. And we'll pass in that. And this is probably just a null issue. Yeah. So if we just put an exclamation mark there, I think we'll be fine. So let's just see. Yes. Okay. And yeah, this is an interesting thing. What's happening is we're not actually clearing it on when we leave, which means it's going to just keep whatever's in memory unless we actually override it. So the best way to do that, I mean, there's many ways to do it, but I'm thinking we just do in our grocery list screen. Let's just find it over here, list screen. We did this add. Let's do that same sort of thing. Get it grocery item form provider dot, we can do clear item. So whenever we do the handle add, we'll just clear the one that was in memory. So it's always blank. And of course, we do have an error there, and I figured that would happen. That's because this is null. So I'd rather fix this a better way, because we could just do the check here if null, if not, go back to miscellaneous. But let's just go to our model, grocery item model, and let's create a property on here, a getter. So we already have something called category label, and in fact, that's pretty close to what we want, but let's just do category value. And if the category is null, in this case, we're going to return MISC, which is kind of like our default, our default thing. Otherwise, we will return this string from category. So it's very similar to our label function, which is kind of like the presentation of it. But in this case, we don't want to get back a dash. We want to get back this. And then over here where we set this, this even gets simpler now. We can just say grocery, what is it? Form provider dot grocery item dot category value. And let's just do a hard refresh. And if we go here, we'll see it's empty and it's set to miscellaneous. Cool. But if we go over, did see a weird thing there. We'll look into that. We got milk, we got dairy, we got bread, we got bakery. If we go back again now, we're back to miscellaneous. Beautiful. Okay, so we have editing. Now let's actually test if the editing works. In fact, I don't think it is going to work. It's going to kind of work. You'll see. So let's go to edit and let's call this milk 2. And you would expect that it would, oh, wow, look at that. So what happened is we actually kind of replaced the one that existed and then still appended this to it. And that's because we were, first of all, editing that one in memory as we were doing it. And then at the end of when you click that save button, we were just also adding it in. So it's kind of like duplicating it, which is not what we want. So to fix that, let's first of all close everything. That's Command K and then W, not all at the same time. It's like Command K W, and it'll close all your tabs. Super handy. And let's go to our. I think it's done in the form provider. So let's just see where. Does it happen here? I don't think it actually happens here. I think it happens on the screen itself. Add grocery item screen. So where is our save action? So here we go, the add item. Okay, so save item and then add item. Okay. So first of all, let's look at our save function and just remember what it does. So validates, and then it creates this sort of thing, and it goes. Now we would want to, what does our actual service do? Grocery item dot create. Yeah, it just creates this thing kind of as a mock. Back to our screen. What we can do is yeah, I think let's get rid of this here. We'll still keep the navigator pop, but in our save item, what we can do is take that same code that we essentially just had, and we'll do some imports here. Get it. It's not, sometimes it does not let me import these things. So we will just copy this and go providers, erase all this guy, providers slash grocery item list provider. Now it should be there. And we essentially want to only add the item when it's new. And we can figure that out before we do the create. So we can kind of be like, if this dot grocery item dot ID equals null, and we'll just create a Boolean variable to track this. Boolean is new equals false, but when there is no ID, we'll say is new equals true. Then over here, we just want to say if is new, then we actually add it, and we'll add new grocery item. So let's see if that works. I'll do a refresh, and we're gonna go back here. We're gonna edit this, call it milk 2. Awesome. Didn't quite work. I wonder why. It is still okay. But let's just see. First of all, milk 3. This should be, yeah, I figured that would happen. So we did get the new one. There's just a state issue here where it wasn't listening to something, and therefore didn't update. I wonder why it wasn't listening, because add item should notify listeners. Yeah. So I guess our list screen is not subscribing to the updates of this. Let's find out. I think I know why, but let's just find out. Grocery. So our list screen. So this is our list screen, but it's actually the grocery list we care about. Yeah, we have this list provider. It's listening. Print. I'm just going to do like a print change. Refresh. So we get a couple updates happening that some kind of change happened in our list provider, which makes sense because it put this stuff in. When I go to make a new one and click save, we see a third change happen. But if I go here and make this say milk 2, we don't get that fourth change. So somehow, and it's because this screen isn't, I think it's because this screen isn't mounted at this point. We're not getting the it happening. So what we can do, I have one possible idea. I'm going to just grab these little guys here, and we're going to go back to our list screen itself, which is already a stateful widget. List provider is not known, so let's make that here. Final list provider equals get it. List provider. And instead of, where were we printing this before? In our grocery list, I think. Nope, in our list screen, grocery items screen. List screen is this. I guess I just closed it. Grocery list. We can also get rid of these guys. Oh. All right, so let's see in our list screen when this is happening. Print hello. And we'll just refresh and see we get hello twice, kind of as expected. Let's edit this to go milk 2. Yeah, and we still don't get it. So what we're gonna do is we have this navigator of context push named. So what we can do is we can actually make handle item an async function, and you can actually await from this. So basically, it'll do its thing, and then what we can say is let's just set state after we come back, after the await completes. And let's just refresh. See, it changed to milk 2 when I made a hot refresh, because it did rebuild everything. So everything in memory is working. It's just the state of our application is not necessarily always listening. Milk 2. Interesting. Let's just do print hello. Hello 1, 2, 3. Refresh. Oh, right. I know why. So this would actually be handling the plus, which this part was working. So we don't actually even have to worry about what we were doing here. Let's just, this part was working fine. It is actually it's the card. It's when you click the card that we're having that problem. So the card, grocery item card. Actually, yeah, this will work. This will work totally fine. So where is our actual on press event? So here we can also, and I'm going to move this now. It's getting a little bit bigger. Let's just make a function void handle edit. And it's going to be an async function. Paste that stuff in. Right now, no context. We're gonna have to do this anyway. So let's make this a stateful widget. Handle edit isn't referenced. Yep, I know. And we're just going to replace a reference to handle edit here. Handle edit, and we can await this, and then after set state on that card. Let's see. Milk 2. Bread 2. Test 1, 2, 3. Make this dairy. Save. All right, we're looking good. Just as a sort of disclaimer, this is working and this is fine for our use case right now. Things like block or using like stream providers on this object so that it can kind of be listening to those changes, that kind of stuff would help. And in fact, we might be able to do this a different way, because I realize it's the card where the action is happening, and then it's the card that's not being replaced. I'm just curious if we can kind of take that same logic that we did here. We'll just paste this in here, and then we need our list provider, which is this guy here. And I'm just going to get rid of this set state here, and I'm going to get rid of the await, and then thus, it doesn't have to be async anymore. And I believe this will actually just work. I'm 20% confident it won't, 80% that it will. Okay, it will not. Init state, list provider is mounted, set state. We're listening to the list provider. That's so weird. I think it's because at the time of the state change actually happening, it's not mounted, which is why. And we can test that just by changing this to set state. And let's see if we get an error. Sorry, set state. So let's just refresh, edit, milk2. Oh, no, it didn't. Okay, we're just gonna go back the way we had it. It's fine. It's fine for now. So what I was kind of saying is this kind of stuff here, right now we're not really using like a stream builder for, the content of these things. This way is working fine. On a big application, using something like block might make more sense, so that all these things can just be listening and rebuilding as needed. This is fine though for our use case. Okay, so we have that, we have deleting, we have editing, and we have marking as done. Something else we could put in our form is, whether or not it's done. But I feel like, it's not like you're ever going to go here just to change that. Like, we have that helper button there. And when you're creating a new one, you're never going to want to, like, I don't see a use case where you'd ever want to type a name and say, and yeah, I completed it, because why are you even, adding it to your list? So we won't worry about that. Okay, the next thing, now that we kind of got I'd say the basic CRUD working here, the create, read, update, and delete, I want to kind of start thinking about how can we organize these things into sort of different things. So let's go to our mock, just so we have a few more things to work with. And I'm just going to put in a few more guys. Let's have 5 things. We'll make their IDs different. 5. Milk, bread, onions, and this would be and let's just make sure we have in our model, we have something like produce. Yeah, so onions, let's make it red onions. Yeah. Okay, milk, bread. I want to make sure there's some things that are the same category and not necessarily in the same order. And let's take, so we have a couple dairies. We have 1 produce, 1 bakery. Let's do another bakery, and we'll call this English muffins. Now if we refresh, we should just have a bunch more things in here to start with, which is pretty sweet. Okay, so what I want to do is figure out how can we order these, because right now it's kind of random. Like if I went to the grocery store, I'd have to really be like, okay, yeah, I'm in the dairy section. I got dairy. Okay. So what I think we can do is in our list provider, we have this thing that sets the items. And I think we're going to create a getter, and I will declare the getter first. List of, this will actually be a map string, map string dynamic, and we can make this a little more specific later. A get of ordered items, or group, let's call it grouped items, because we're going to be coming back with that. And we will make an override here. Oops, override. And it's going to basically be most of these same things, grouped items, and it'll be a function. And for now, let's just return items. No, that won't work because it's saying it's not thing. So essentially what I want to do is actually group these items. So I'm just going to start by going items.group. There's a way to do, okay, yeah, right. Okay, so we're going to do group by, which I thought, I was just looking at this ahead of time to kind of prep on this idea because I haven't done this in Dart before. How are they doing it? They have this thing called group by, but I guess they made this function. The group by function returns a map of objects. Where does this group by function come from, though? I thought it was just built in. Yeah, why can't, maybe it's Dart group by. Yeah, group by function where undefined name group by. Did that just tell me anything? Group by isn't defined. Where do you get group by from? Oh, maybe it's its own. Okay, package collection. What is this? Collection library. Okay, so this must be something I need to import. Group by, yeah, okay, so package collection Dart. It looks like this is something I have to actually, oh, maybe I do have it installed. Okay, what is this file? Cool, this is just something built into Flutter, I guess. Or maybe into Dart. Package, I don't know, it's built into something. Okay, so now we can do what I wanted to do. If I can find this guy's sample, just to remember the syntax of it. Unfortunately, they're all photos, screenshots, which is super lazy. But we can basically do this. So we're just going to make final, we'll just call it group for now. And then we're going to run this group by function. And we're going to pass in our list. So in this case, this dot items. Then the next thing is the function that actually helps group them. And the objects are going to be as grocery item. And actually, let's just call this item as grocery item. And we want to, oops, sorry, I did this wrong. Item. And then we do item as grocery item. And then we can go dot category. Actually, that kind of almost will work. And then let's just try returning group, see what it actually is. That's not going to work, but let's just print group. And I'm just for now, just so this doesn't complain to me, I'm just going to return like an empty list because that will conform to this. And we need to obviously execute this somewhere. So I'm going to go to our list screen. Is that where we get it? Or it's in the grocery list. And I'm just in the init state going to go list provider dot grouped items. And actually, let's just do the, oh no, we can't print that because, okay. But I think just doing that, let's cast it to a variable temp equals this, just so it actually executes that getter. Refresh. And we see, oh, it's just an empty object. Okay, so we did something wrong here. Or maybe because, oh, yeah, you know why? Because this probably got called before all this stuff was even done. So what's our best way? I mean, we could just, where do we actually, so this is where we actually loop through the items. We know there's items at that point, so let's just make something called temp here. There we go, and we'll refresh. And we should see, okay, category dairy, and instance. So basically what this is a map with an array of things in it. So that is pretty good. And we'll be able to make this work now. So the idea would be we would actually kind of loop through these keys here and then loop through those. So we're going to essentially have like sections within within this and so on and so forth. But we're going, now that we kind of have at least the this function here and we've done a bunch of other stuff, we're going to call this the end of this video, and we'll carry on to that and get that stuff all organized for in the next one. Thanks for watching.